Good afternoon and welcome to Black Press USA Live. Congresswoman Brenda L. Lawrence has lived just about her entire life in Michigan's 14th Congressional District. She's pretty much served that district all of her life as well. And that district includes portions of Detroit as well as the city of Southfield and 16 other cities located in Oakland and Wayne counties. She was reelected to the U.S. House of Representatives in November of 2018, and she serves as a co-chair of the bipartisan Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues and the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Welcome to Black Press USA, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence.
Thank you so much for having me. There's so much going on, so it's really important that we stay in touch and communicate.
Well, we certainly appreciate you. And, I want to start, is like you said, there's so much going on, but there's so many things we don't want to miss. And so I want to start here. You voted in favor of a bill that establishes the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys within the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights Office of the Staff Director to conduct a systematic study of the conditions affecting Black men and boys. What's the end goal, Congresswoman?
As we know, our Black men, our boys, they're incarcerated more than any, disproportionately to the population. You go into a state like Iowa, and you'll still see 30 or 40% of the population, and they're only 6% of the residents in that state. We know
Yeah.
that when we start looking at violence, we look at gangs, we look at so many things that are happening. If we can really invest in elevating our Black men in America, head of households, being responsible for their families, we know it'll make a difference, not only for America, but for us as a community. And so often, it's just like that woman who, from the Central Park, who called and said, "There's a Black man standing here and I'm afraid." They treat our Black men as if they're predators or they're these savages. And so we know that President Obama started this, and when Donald Trump got in office, he dismantled it. So it's time for us to make it a law and a policy that the next president won't be able to dismantle, because we know this is critical. And if we don't do it, like John Lewis say, if not now, when? If not us, who? Uh, this You keep doing the same thing, you get the same results, and it's time for us to change.
Yeah, and obviously we certainly want to talk a little bit about the great Representative John Lewis in a moment. But the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed the House. You guys did a great job with that, but
hmm
it's languished in the Senate. Where is it? Where is this headed, Congresswoman? And what do you see as the future of police reform?
So we're having I don't know how many of you are watching. Bill Barr is at a hearing right now with the judicial.
Hmm.
He denies. He said there is no systematic racism in the policing in America. So where's this going? I want everyone listening to understand what the reality is right now in Congress. So we are so excited. We have the majority. We are able to pass the George Floyd Policing and Justice Bill. Um, this is it's passed, so it goes to the Senate, and it is now in Mitch McConnell's graveyard. Mitch McConnell graveyard has gun reform, it has violence against women, it has the Voting Rights Act. He has made a coup or a pact with Donald Trump that he will not bring forth any legislation that does not align with his agenda. And it also protects his Republican colleagues, because if he doesn't bring the bill forward, they won't be on the record voting against it. We have never had this happen before. The way that our democracy is supposed to work with checks and balances is that the House passed a bill. You send it to the Senate. They vote it up or vote it down. They debate it. They amend it. But there is action taken. This is literally no action taken. It's just literally in his graveyard. And the other thing that's so violent about this act, the only thing, and he will tell you, he doesn't deny it, the only thing he's focused on are judgeships. He is appointing judges at record amounts. And you know, that saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. We learned something valuable. This was not a priority of our President Obama. He was passing, you know, health reform and all these other things. And then at the last minute, they blocked President Obama from appointing a Supreme Court justice. And so we are going to be subjected to these judges. Some of them are lifetime appointments for not only my lifetime, but other lifetimes. And we got to keep our eye on the prize on that. But this is just, it's it's heartbreaking. We're going to keep doing our work, but something good happened. I am on appropriations. And so in appropriations, it's one of the most powerful committees in Congress, because if you want to know what a person believes or what they care about, follow their money. And so if we as a country have values and standards, then we should appropriate the funds, your tax dollars, to reflect that. And so in the appropriation bills, we appropriated funding for all the elements of the George Floyd Act. So we're putting money into the budget that would allow local cities to invest in de-escalation training, bias training, um, to all the things that we want to happen. So if this sits in the graveyard, we at least have funded some of these programs. And the key thing that we did is that if you don't do these things, you will not be eligible to
Right.
receive federal dollars.
That's pretty interesting. And speaking of Attorney General Barr and following the money, we know that the Republicans finally released, and Mitch McConnell, speaking of all of those, released their answer to the Democrats' $3 trillion HEROES Act by presenting a $1 trillion plan of their own. That plan, shockingly, Congresswoman Lawrence, it shockingly includes almost $2 billion for a new FBI building. What was your reaction when you saw that?
You know, so often I wonder, how did we lose our way? Why would you, at a time when this country is suffering from a pandemic, literally losing lives, fighting to find a vaccine so that people can live, that you're actually going to play a pawn of the president who wants a new FBI building? Uh, do we eventually need to invest in a new building? Yes, but this is not the place for it. We have people, you know, the $600 unemployment that has kept so many families afloat during this pandemic. They want to cut it back to 200, and they want to restrict the stimulus. We recommended another stimulus check, which helped so many people, working Americans. Um, we I can't address the actions of these individuals, but what I will say to everyone: elections have consequences. We have a presidential election coming up. I can't tell you in the last election how many times I heard people say, "I just don't like her," and I didn't vote. So I didn't vote for either one of them. When you don't vote, you are voting, because in the state of Michigan that President Trump won, if two people in every precinct, two, had voted, he would not have won Michigan. And I know I'm talking to some people who felt they were righteous because I didn't vote for Trump, but I didn't like her. I didn't want her. Well, look at what you got. And so we have an election coming up. And if I can bring up vote by mail, we know there's a pandemic. There are fewer people who are volunteering to work at the polls. Like, you know, there's some people, that's their patriotism. That's what they give back. But they're saying it's not safe and they're not going to do it. In addition to that, we have seen in Wisconsin and in Georgia these long, long lines. The election is in November. I'm from Michigan. It may be 0 degrees in Michigan in November. But we have the opportunity to vote in the comfort of our homes, to mail that ballot back in. But because the president has made the Postal Service one of his targets, He's trying to dismantle it because if the Postal Service isn't working, then the timely delivery of ballots is going to be interrupted. So I'm telling people, like now in my district, election day is next Tuesday. I'm saying, please don't put it in the mail. Go to your clerk's office, I'm sorry, to your city hall and personally put it in the hands of the clerk's office. You don't have to touch anybody. You just walk up and lay it on the counter for them to pick up. And make sure that your ballot is counted and you have a way of tracking if they received your ballot. I encourage you strongly to do that. But the bottom line is vote, vote, vote.
Yeah, and Congresswoman Lawrence, you mentioned too again about the post office, and you guys Congress did vote to help to support the post office. You voted a lot of money, but the Treasury Secretary has still refused to release that money to the post office. What else can be done? I mean, isn't that law now that it's been voted and
Yes.
also signed by the president?
So this is what this president has found. No other president would defy law. This president he defies it. He says, I'm not going to do it. Sue me. Go back to the judges. So as he populates all these judgeships, he has lawsuits. We have never sued a president as much as we have here, his administration. And he just sits and waits and keeps appealing it and appealing it. He understands the legal process is one that is very time consuming. And so he won't do it. You sue him, he'll appeal it and keep pushing it to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, yeah. Back in January, the House led the impeachment and succeeded in impeaching this president.
Yes.
We don't hear a whole lot about impeachment right now, and perhaps we will as the campaign heats up. But how much should voters understand that whole impeachment process and what impeachment really means?
So we in the House have the responsibility for identifying what is impeachable and to send it to the Senate to actually, and we do the articles of impeachment, and then the Senate actually has hearings to impeach the president. The Senate is majority Republican, and they were not. I mean, before they read a single article, they said, we're not going to impeach him.
Right.
And so it is part of history that we created the articles of impeachment, but if the Senate refused to remove him from office and impeach him.
Yeah. And Congresswoman Lawrence, obviously the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden, has, according to polls, have taken a pretty big lead. But if that holds up, from your view, what type of president will we be getting in Joe Biden?
First of all, I want to say don't believe the polls. So many people did that last time and stayed at home. So she's going to win anyway. Do not believe the polls. The polls are who we vote for. The polls are those ballots that are cast. That's the reality. So what kind of president are we going to get in Joe Biden? I'm excited about Joe Biden because the compassion that's so lacking right now in our government. We are so hungry and craving for someone in the White House who actually hears us, who cares about us, who is actually a president of the people, that understand that our international relationships and coalitions are important. A president who understands that diversity is the foundation of our country and embrace it and to protect all people. You have a president that understands that health care for all Americans is a critical issue. That if we educate our children, he's married to an educator. If we educate our children, it decreases poverty, it decreases incarceration, and we cannot continuously cut our educational system and then wonder why we have all these social woes. So I'm excited about Joe Biden. Um, and please, it's not about the polls, it's about you voting.
Yeah, you're watching Black Press USA Live. We have the pleasure of having Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence from the 14th District in Michigan. Congresswoman Lawrence, you just touched on healthcare, uh, given the pandemic. What are your concerns and plans regarding U.S. healthcare policies and programs, including Medicare and Medicaid?
So first of all, it's so interesting to me to see this administration constantly saying they don't support their word. It's Affordable Care Act, what they call Obamacare, and people will tell you, I like the Affordable Care Act, but I don't like the Obamacare. um, we in America know that part of my ability to have a quality of life is dependent upon me being healthy. We as a people, Black people, we die at a higher rate than in almost every chronic diseases when it comes to hypertension, heart disease, when it comes to diabetes. We need health care. We need to change our lifestyles to address some of our chronic diseases, and some of them are passed on from our loved ones. But with that being said, healthcare in America is not affordable for everyone. That's the crime. Why is it that I have to be rich in order to get good healthcare? And so, with this, I know for a fact that Vice President Biden will be a president that fights for health care, who will protect Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, because we have to ensure, it's something America did, and few people pay attention to this. We said in America that we are not going to have Americans dying from hunger. That's why we created WIC, SNAP. We have food stamps, some people call them, because we said in America, it's no way, with all the wealth we have, that people should be dying from hunger. Well, we shouldn't be dying from healthcare. The COVID-19 showed that we as Black people, as Hispanic people, Native American, we're dying at a disproportionate rate from this virus. And they, they'll say, well, it's because you have more pre-existing conditions. And then, like, everybody knows that. Well, wait a minute, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And we have to transform healthcare in America, not only for us who have lived a good long life so I can end my life in some quality and health, but also for these young babies and these mothers who are dying in childbirth, the babies who are dying, the young people who are getting type 2 diabetes early in life, heart disease, all of these things. For us to live, we must have and protect health care for all of us, regardless of your zip code and regardless of your income.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the maternal health. One of the more overlooked things we find is that Black maternal health is a problem. We're
Mhm.
seeing more Black women die
Yes.
giving birth to during childbirth. What can be done? What should be done about that?
So I have the good fortune of being co-chair of the Women's Caucus for this Congress, one that has more women than ever serving. We found that when a pregnant black woman goes to the hospital and say, something's wrong, I don't feel right. Oh, you're just pregnant, you're fine. But let a white woman walk in with money, because Serena Williams had the same scenario. She has money. So it has nothing to do with wealth. But if a white woman comes in and says, something's not right, I don't feel right, let's check it out. Let's find out what's going on. The bias in medical care is real. And Black women are traditionally, we found that during COVID-19, there were
Mhm.
so many, Detroit was hit very hard. We had so many family members say, my loved one went to emergency room four times and was sent back home. And then the fifth time, they were so critical. They went in and then they died. That bias of saying, you can live through it, you tough. I don't know what their perception is, but we must make sure that our Black women are prepared. I did a town hall on this, and a Black OBGYN doctor, a woman, said, we often talk about how we recuperate from a pregnancy, how we, lose that weight, how we transition to breastfeeding and all that. She said, but seldom do we talk about preparing our body for birth. If you have hypertension, if you're diabetic, you need to get some things in order so you won't have one of those high risk pregnancies. That's something we need to communicate to our women. Um, and to understand that everything related to our bodies when we become pregnant is intensified, and that we need to do everything. Do you know, in America we are higher than some underdeveloped countries of women dying in childbirth, and Black women are the highest group who are dying from childbirth.
It's an incredible
But
observation there. Yeah.
we started a study. We mandated the CDC to study Black people dying from COVID, and also to study maternal mortality.
Yeah. Um, Congresswoman, Congresswoman Lawrence, we know we have limited time remaining,
Yes.
but I do wanted to make sure to mention a couple of other things to you. One, you as you alluded to, you have a primary election coming up next week.
Yes, I do.
And it's,
And
how how confident are you, Congresswoman?
I'm fighting a good fight. I'd never take an election for granted. I won my last election with over 90% of the vote in the general. So the people, I tell people who are interested in politics, so many people, they just look at the cameras, they go, oh, it's glamorous. They go, this is hard work. And every time you put your name on the ballot, you are asking people to trust you, to fight for them, to show up for them, to be, the African saying, I see you. I see you, I hear you, I'm going to fight for you. You know what's going on in your district, to be visible, to be present, and to show up to work. And those are the commitments I make. I feel strong about my election, but I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm working, campaigning, um, and look forward to winning the primary. I'm a primary. My district is predominantly Democrat, so um, once I win the primary, then we're going to roll up our sleeve and push the Democratic ticket, and fight to keep the Democrats in office, but change the White House. Please, please, please vote.
I like how you put your fist up for that one. You have you have some fans watching. I just saw someone mention that they watched you. Karen Dunham says, I
Yeah.
heard her speak at the Kent County Dems banquet one year. Eloquent, sincere, and an excellent public servant. Karen
Thank
grew
you.
up next
Thank
door to
you.
Southfield.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so we certainly wanted to share that with you. And speaking of elections, and we talked about Vice President Biden running, but that word vice president is taking on a real hot meeting because August 1st is when he had initially set the time to select. Now it's talk that he may wait until the days leading up to the convention. But we do know from Vice President Biden that there are 4 African American women being considered. Um, Unless you want to share with us who it is, but do you feel like there's one person who would really stand out and be the best candidate?
I have 3 of the individuals who are in contention are dear friends of mine because we're colleagues. Karen Bass is my Black Caucus chair. She is phenomenal. Val Demings is one of my colleagues, just a phenomenal public servant. Um, I also I endorsed. Uh, geez, I endorsed uh, the vice president. I mean the senator for president. So I'm absolutely,
Yeah,
just excited about her as well. But at the end of the day, there are Black women who are in contention. And I tell everyone, I say, well, do you think he should pick a Black person? I say, I think he should pick the best person. And there are Black women he's considering who are um, absolutely in a position to Kamala Harris. I don't know why I had a brain fart. Kamala Harris is the other. Who Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Karen Bass, Val Demings. These are qualified women, and they
yeah.
they are Black women. And so I would be over the top to finally check that box. We got a Black woman as a vice president. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the pool that he has. That says a lot about him. Who are those top contenders? And
Yeah.
so we are going to we're going to be all right. We're going to be all
Well,
right.
would it be a disappointment if it's not a African American woman?
You know what? It will cause me to pause. I'm still going to be 100% for him as the president. The other women who are in that pool are absolutely qualified women. You can't discount them because of the color of their skin. But I'm telling you that the Black women who are in that pool are exceptional.
Yeah. And Congresswoman Lawrence, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation annual legislative conference is coming up. We are our intent, Congresswoman, as you are the second vice chair of the CBC. We've had the chair, Karen Bass. Our intent is to have every single member of the CBC on our live stream. So we're going to look to you to help us out with that, putting the
Okay.
pressure on you, but
Okay.
also um, your thoughts on the importance of. Can you tell your constituents and tell your colleagues and tell our viewers how important it is to have the CBC members give their message through the Black Press of America, Black Press USA.
One of the things, that's another reason why I just can tell you how brilliant Karen Bass is. One of the objectives, she said, so many people are saying, what does the Black Caucus do? They're there, so who are they and what they do? We have been on a full court press with town halls and press conferences to let you know how important it is to have the voice of African Americans in this House. To give you the example, the George Floyd bill was the collective efforts of all the bills that the Black Caucus have been working on, dust them off because they have been, hadn't been implemented. And we were able to come together to implement um, transformational change in policing. In addition to that, the Black Boys and Black Men Commission was the effort of the Black Caucus. Um, so often there are bills, and I'll tell you about Marsha Fudge. She's on agriculture where she can influence SNAP and food stamps and making sure that we are feeding the poor, that they're not, we fight because the Republicans were like, we don't need to do that. They're just, I was in a hearing and one of the Republicans said they just have babies to get more money. And I said, do you realize you give $27 a week in food stamps? Do you really think somebody's going to get pregnant to get $27 a week? But anyway, uh, the Black Caucus, we are labeled the conscience of Congress. So many things that you see, the pressure that we have to put a Black woman on as the vice president. We've had Biden commit to putting a African American on the Supreme Court, and he said he's going to put a Black woman there. His cabinet, we saw the amazing opportunities that were given to African Americans in Obama's administration, and we want to see that again because when you're making policy, You know, when you're making the stew, you can leave out some key ingredients that will change the whole taste and the outcome. So we want to make sure that we're in there in the policy making, and we're there in the administration, and that the voice of Black people, we know we carry that on our show. That's our burden, is to be the voice for Black America.
Yeah, and as the trusted voice in news for Black America, the Black press has been around 193 years. We just had our the NMPA's 80th annual convention, and we didn't get a chance to get a shout out from you. Congresswoman, here's your chance before you sign off.
Okay. I today stand here as a little Black girl from the east side of Detroit who was given the opportunity in this America to walk the halls of Congress built by slaves. Throughout my journey, it was the Black media who elevated the voice, who elevated the status, who continuously, through funding issues, through social pressure to be silent, has kept our life, our accomplishments. And other media loves to write about our challenges and sometimes our failures, but it is the Black press that gives us that balance and that enhances our history. And without Black media, and happy anniversary for 80 years, without Black media, our history would not be told. Thank you.
Well, we certainly thank you for all you do, Congresswoman Lawrence, and we look forward to talking with you again. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Coming up,
and everyone be safe. Wear the mask. It's not
absolutely
political. It's for your life.
Wear the mask. And speaking of wear the mask, on Thursday at noon, we have Dr. Anthony Fauci right here. So tune in then, and we will see you soon. Be safe and be well.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Take care.